Welcome to Look Behind the Look, the new podcast that examines iconic looks in film, television, music, and fashion history. I'm your host, Tiffany Bartok. Hi, I have a confession. I am the last person to watch Schitt's Creek. This was not for a lack of appreciation in any way for the show and the show's talent. I simply had misjudged the entire situation by thinking that I knew what to expect, and as a hardcore fan of Christopher Guest films, I felt like if I didn't have Christopher Guest, how great could it be? Wow, there's many things I'm wrong about, and this is probably in my top 5. Cut to my mother binge watching it, my mother who doesn't get addicted to any shows, and cut to her crying when it was over. It was because of her that I reached out to Lucky Bromhead and asked her to come on the show. I, of course, know Lucky's work and followed her incredible IG account, so I knew all of the Schitt's Creek episodes' looks, and I knew why they secured all the awards that they have. I then realized that though I knew the looks and had seen so many clips and a few episodes here and there, and I had seen endless amazing photos of the work done on the show, I had never watched the show completely, like season for season in its entirety. So Jason and I binged all 80 episodes and finished the night before this interview. I'd been crying all night because the last episode wrecked me completely. Lucky had Sorys join me, and now I will share with you our conversation. I wanted mostly to ask them how it felt to be a part of something so special, such an important part of it too, and if they recognized how their work has certainly contributed to the world being a better place. The best work is that which has purpose, and these women are extremely special in that I see that purpose along with an unrelenting attention to detail. It's the secret to their impeccable artistry. So here we are, talking about the best show created in recent history with the most celebrated hair and makeup team in TV land right now. And while the show is over, we will always have these stories from the set. So I hope you enjoy them. I, first of all, have to express my gratitude for you joining me today. I am so beyond thrilled to have you both here. I bow down to the work that you have created. And the thing that I wanted to address right off the top is that I know that there has been so much press on these looks because they are so iconic and so fantastic, but I decided that I just don't care. And I just want to talk to you like this is the first time anyone has ever seen them. So, let's just pretend they're not like the most sought after looks for every, going out tonight look. And let's just talk about this amazing work that you've done. I have to confess that I binge watched all 80 episodes since we secured this interview.
That's awesome.
And I literally just stopped crying. That's why I let my son watch the first episode, because he was like, "What's wrong with mom?" And I was sobbing for the first time. And I don't know how long, from just feeling it all at once like that and just experiencing them it rapidly, all together like that instead of in bits and pieces. So I can't imagine how you guys have been feeling since the show's been over, but I assume all these awards, this award tour has been helpful in sort of the letting go process, right? How did you guys begin? How did you meet, and how did you come onto the project initially?
Lucky, you want to go first?
Sure. I've known Dan for a long time. I used to be the head of makeup for MTV Canada. Oh. And so I met Dan when he started there. So I think he was like 21 or 22 maybe. So we worked together there for about 8 years or so, I think. And we kind of developed a shorthand, and so he started, dropping these little seeds of information about the show, and it was very exciting. And then eventually he asked if I'd be interested in working on it, and I was like, yeah.
So you were a groomer for Dan. You're responsible for the hair and everything at MTV.
At MTV, yeah. Yeah. And actually, this is also where Anya comes in, is that there would be certain occasions where, because I was This is back in whatever year that was. And I was the only person on the hair and makeup team at MTV Canada.
Oh yeah, I mean MTV has $1, right? I mean for
Right.
HMU. They're like, oh, can you keep an eye on the clothes too? We'd really like that. Thank you.
And right. And you know, back in the day it was they were doing the Hills after show, and that show just like, you know, exploded. And then the cast members from the Hills were coming up, and it started to become too much for me to handle on my own. So I asked Anya to come in to help me with hair.
Ah, okay. Great. So you guys were there. So you were hearing, you know, rumblings of this show being developed and at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. So then they did the little pilot, right? The snippet, and sold that around. And then you heard that it was happening. It's a go. And then how did you come to Catherine?
Well, ironically, Catherine and I worked together on a show called Match Game. It was like a game show. And
How do I not know about Match Game?
yeah, well, it's the Canadian version of Match Game. Match Game is actually a show, I believe, from the 70s.
Yes.
Yeah, so they kind of did this reboot of it, and we taped a whole bunch of episodes, and that's where Catherine and I first met and started working together. And we, you know, got along really well and laughed all the time. And so when Dan was talking about the project, he was like, you know, this is who we want to play the mother. Does that interest you? I said, well, you know, you should also talk to her about who she might So thankfully, you know, I have a memorable name, and she said, oh my God, I you know, we worked together. That's fine. And so we already had a relationship just prior to Schitt's Creek. So lucky for both of us.
Yes. Lucky, were you born with the name Lucky?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Name. My parents are not hippies. I was named after somebody else. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then Anya, how did you were okay, so you all came to the show. Now we know how you came to the show. And then how did you begin the process of developing this look that is now iconic?
So I came in third season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, at first season, Lucky had put out on Facebook that they were looking for a hair person, but they had to be a part of the union. And I responded and I said, I'm a part of the union.
First of all, that you're talking about Facebook and like, you know, the things that are life changing, and you know what I mean? It just goes to show, I mean, a lot of our listeners are, you know, makeup artists, but a lot of them are, you know, it crosses over into the real world. And for people to realize that like this magical connection and this magical opportunity was seized on Facebook is just amazing. So always answer your messages and always be reading your feed is the lesson there, right?
Well, it's perfect because we already had, you know, it was like a huge puzzle piece just falling together, because Anya and I had a you know, we've known each other for how many years now? I don't know, 20 or more. Wow. And so we've worked together on and off for that whole duration. And then also Anya had a working relationship with Dan.
Okay.
MTV. So that was just a perfect.
Everything truthful. I mean, this is a phenomenon, right? Everything aligning the way that it, I mean, every single thing just was an alignment, right? For this show. Belief that there is something bigger out there for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you came on to the show third season. And so that's interesting to me. So already you've decided that she has this many wigs, right?
Right. Well, she had decided that, you know, Moira had all those wigs. But I remember being in a production meeting with Dan, and he said, you know, just make sure you have, he said 9. I'm not sure where this number came from, but he's like, make sure you have 9 wigs to start off with. Okay. And I was like, okay. So I, you know, without like speaking with Catherine about, you know, the process, I had also talked to Lucky about the process and how Moira's look is more of a mood. When she puts on a wig, it's more of how she's feeling as opposed to an aesthetic. So I had brought a bunch of different styles, and it wasn't very contemporary. It was just kind of odd. And I was actually shopping for a mood. And so as the seasons progressed, I got to establish a relationship with Moira. And so the wigs just kind of evolved from there. By the end of the season, I remember bringing, I think it was like 23 wigs at the beginning.
Yeah.
From 9 to 90.
Add a 0.
Yeah, I would shop for, when Lucky and I would go on press tours to New York and LA, I always made sure that I had a day where I would shop for wigs and go to very obscure places. And
Those were fun days.
Yeah.
Oh.
Early, we would get our coffee. It would be brisk and cold outside, and we would head to the wig stores and just walk around, and I would see Anya picking out these things that I was like, what the but and then some of them ended up being some of the most iconic wigs, and then watching Anya haggle with the people.
Oh, that's funny.
It was the best. It was a show unto itself.
Well, did you say what they were for? No.
No, I mean, I was asking for wigs that nobody was going to buy. And I knew that. I would point that out. I would say, can I have these 3 for this amount of money? Because no one's going to come in and buy these. They're, so they were like, yeah.
So when you present the wigs, one person asked me to ask you how many wigs, if you knew the number of wigs total used, and if they all had names, or if any, when was the naming, when did the name when is it bestowed upon the wig, the name?
Well, I remember, I would number the wigs according to season and episode.
Okay.
But I have a great story where season 6, episode 1, where Catherine, Moira's trying to save her wigs, and she calls out, the names of the wigs.
Yes,
and
Crystal or something.
Yeah, it was Lorna, and just a bunch of them.
Wait. My babies.
No, your kids aren't here.
My girls.
What girls?
My girls.
Oh.
Lorna, second from the left.
Okay.
If she takes on smoke, she'll never recover.
Hey, this one.
And Cindy below her. And Cindy, I just gave her a blowout.
And so Catherine said that when it was the premiere of that season, that episode, she had invited her friends over to watch the episode. And she invited those friends whose names she called out to the wigs. And so when her friends were watching the episode, they realized that Catherine had named the wigs after her friends.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah.
I love that. So in addition, how many red lipsticks were there? Because I noticed I could tell sometimes they were orange based. It didn't seem to me that they were always it doesn't seem like Catherine always wears a blue based lipstick or an orange based lipstick. It seemed like they had a variety. So how did you pick which reds you were going to wear?
Well, Moira does have a red, and it's matte Ruby Woo.
Of course.
And that's the Moira red. And we use it with stripped down lip liner.
Okay.
Also from MAC.
Yes.
And but sometimes the lipsticks would vary. There was a period of time where we used Dubonnet from MAC for a little while. And then sometimes again it was like the wigs where it was a very organic process that we lived in our own little bubble. Catherine, Anya, and I had our own little bubble.
Of course.
And
I want to be in it. I want to go.
I want to go back.
Yeah. We still go back too. We still live in it.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's okay. Everybody's okay with that.
Yeah,
You're
we have
allowed. You don't have to leave anytime soon. It's fine.
Good. That's
Yeah.
good. We really like it in there. But yeah, so we would get in our little bubble with Moira. And may I preface this with saying that all of Moira's looks, whether it was the lipsticks or the other characters she was playing or the wigs or whatever, nothing was ever meant to be funny.
Right.
You know,
that's why it worked.
Yeah. Moira, it's very serious to her.
Yes.
And so we took it very seriously in this whole process. And then, you know, every once in a while we would suddenly sort of snap out of the process and just see it objectively and just start laughing because it was we would see it how everyone else would see it.
Yeah.
But the lipsticks would definitely often be influenced by the wigs.
Okay.
You know, like there were just times where like that the baby pink wig that she had on, it was like, you know, let's do a purple, like a magenta purple kind of lip, or the green wig that she had on. We were like, okay, the red is sometimes it's just not working. And Moira is a very sort of avant-garde person, and so we would put that dark cassis kind of color on with the green wig, and it just gave it a different edge.
Mm-hmm.
And did it go wardrobe, wig, makeup?
Usually, but sometimes not. Sometimes we knew, you know, like we would start talking about a certain scene weeks and weeks in advance, knowing that she was going to be wearing a certain wig, or like,
okay,
you could speak to that.
Like the Crow, or you know,
oh my God,
most of the wigs weren't prepared ahead of time. It was kind of, it was a lot of it was done on the fly. That's why I needed to have about 100 wigs in our little bubble at all times, because there would be moments where Catherine would try on a wig and she'd be like, no, I'm not in this mood. And then sometimes she would just literally, there were times where she would go through the bin and go, this, you know.
Okay, so we were talking about her going through the trunk and picking, and I saw that with when she was backstage for Watch What Happens Live.
Yes,
she was picking which one that she wanted to do. That must, I mean, what was some of your favorite moments of traveling with Moira, like in doing the press? I'm sure Watch What Happens Live was a blast.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments I had with Catherine in establishing a wig was we were flying from LA to New York to do press, and a photographer had contacted me and said, you know, we're doing a shoot for Emmy magazine and we have creative control over what we want to do. So I mentioned to Catherine, you know, tomorrow we're doing the shoot and we have creative control. And I said, is there anything in particular that you would like to do? And she said, like literally in that minute, I think I'd like to wear a Dr. Zhivago looking hat, but as a wig. And I was like, okay. Wow. And so Lucky and Catherine and I were looking at reference pictures of the Golden Girls, Dorothy, I can't remember.
B. Arthur's character.
And so we literally, the plane landed at like 4 p.m. The wig stores like closed at like 7 or 8. So I had to go to the hotel, check in, go find a B. Arthur wig for the next morning. And it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I can remember it.
We were doing press for the rest of the day as well. So that look that was in Emmy magazine, which is, I think, is such an iconic image. It's beautiful.
I agree. I have to say that this is the second time I have brought up that Emmy magazine kills it. I don't know why is it not like a, you know, like a fashion magazine? Their shoots are incredible.
Yeah. But that whole look, the room that we shot that in was in this little sort of offshoot room from people's offices. So we were walking through, people were on their computers and looking up going, oh yeah, whatever. And and then we actually put the whole thing together because I mean, you can't see it in the shot, but I did do her makeup differently in a more sort of like 60s way for that shot. No regrets because the shot's perfect, but we did the whole thing, the wig and the makeup and everything, just in some side bathroom.
Yeah.
The office workers would come in and have a tinkle, and we would continue doing our thing. And
yeah.
Keeping it real.
Yeah.
I noticed that, you know, you do a trick on her where you concentrate the color in the inner corner here a lot. And then but not always. And I wondered what made you make the decision to do it sometimes and not others. I noticed that sometimes it's deep here and then fans out.
Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of what most people do, where it's darker on the outer edge. And lighter on the inner edge. And Catherine and I actually have a very similar eye shape in that both of us have a little bit more, I don't know, I call it meat, a little bit more meat in here.
Yep.
And it's a little puffier there. And so if I put something dark there and something light there, it ends up
highlighting it.
Well, it makes you look angry. It gives you this sort of like angry, you know, Grinch face. Well, it does for me anyway. So when we were talking about the makeup, it would just sort of, it would also depend on the mood and all that kind of stuff, right? Like every day when you're working with such a collaborative performer, every day you're having conversations about what that character is feeling and where they're at. And that contributes to how things are styled makeup wise, and I'm sure hair wise. And so yeah, it definitely, and I also did this little trick because it was something I did on myself, and eyelashes also usually go shorter to longer. So I would just flip them and put the longer ones on the inside. And for our face shape, it kind of helps to just push that area back a little and give it more of a smoky, we like a rounded smoky eye as opposed to like a cat eye.
Yep.
With the shadow. Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly how I would describe it. Yeah. You guys are amazing. Did you ever have pushback? Did you ever get in a creative, like, really, are we doing this? No. Oh my God. Lucky's laughing. Anya's like,
Like, really, are we doing this? This is incredible that we're getting that our job and we're getting paid to create this kind of characters. Like, yes, I would have those moments where I was like, really, are we doing this? You know?
We didn't really get a lot of pushback because Catherine, the character of Moira has so much thought put into her that there is a reason for everything. Any tiny thing that you see going on with her hair and her makeup, there's a reason. If you see like a little flyaway, that's not a mistake.
Right.
or a lip shape that looks a little askew, that's not a mistake. Everything is very deliberate and precise. And so I think that because so much care was put into that character on all fronts, that everybody just sort of let it be and let it breathe, because the more that she was allowed to let things breathe, the better it got. So we didn't really have pushback.
I mean, I've been watching Catherine since the beginning of time, obviously, as most good people, connoisseurs of pop culture have, but I've been a good girl. But, and I was expecting all of her, you know, I almost didn't watch the show because I was like, I know what I'm going to get. I know, you know what I mean? I get it. I've seen Catherine for decades, like, kill it. What am I going to, and it's not, you know, a Christopher Guest project. So like, you know, how's it going to be? The fact that Annie like folded into this world was shocking to me. Like, you know, when you talk about how everything was for a reason, I got the same vibe from Annie as well. And did you guys see that happen before your very eyes? That she just like, I was curious what it looked like with her going into this world that Eugene and Catherine have. Obviously, Dan was born into it, and Eugene and Catherine have been doing this for decades, and the precision is unparalleled. But Annie had that same vibe. I was so blown away. And did you guys see it be developed? Did she learn from the others, or did she have that coming in?
I think Annie is such an incredibly talented performer.
Yeah.
I've never actually met anyone quite like her. I always told her that I felt like her soul, her skin was like a bubble, you know, like so you could feel her emotions in her soul.
Wow.
Like it was so accessible to her. And she also has that timing. I remember in the early episodes, you know, just watching some of the stuff where she would step off set and go, you know, especially after her first scene with Eugene and Catherine, she was like, I just did a scene with Eugene and Catherine. Oh my God. Wow. And she is so, I think it was just this perfect storm of people who are so generous in their performances that they actually really do. You know, I know that Catherine and Eugene, when they're in the moment, they're still receptive and learning from everybody, no matter how long they've been doing it for. So I think that was this perfect storm of her. Yeah, exactly.
And I know she's really like she's like a sponge that just I can feel every pore of her, even through the screen. So being there, right there, must have been so exciting to watch her develop.
There's this fearlessness that she has, and it's coupled with having a good time. You know, and I think she always goes into it just wanting to have a good time,
jumping on in.
Yeah,
my mother. So my mother had a stroke, and this is a long time ago, but since then she can only watch kids shows or game shows. Like she can't track a show, so it's so hard because I recommend shows and she can't follow them, and so it's like a loss. Well, she was obsessed with Schitt's Creek. It's one of two. Amazing. That's amazing, right? It's one of two shows, and I told her that I was talking to you, and like of anybody I talked to, she was like, this is, oh my God, you know, freaking out. She said, you have to ask them how Annie, well, she calls her Alexis, how Alexis could look so devastated when Ted left and her bed, and she was so down. How did they make her look so beautiful? You know, and I was like, I think of all the questions, this is hilarious for me to ask you guys, but I did promise that I would ask if she was wearing, when she broke up with Ted, no makeup, or if you guys did something to her to make her look more in grief.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. And we shot that at the beginning of the day. And I remember her being in my chair for like 5 minutes. Because we kind of just went with how she came in, but just a little more camera ready. So basically I took what I didn't like and I left the rest alone.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was, I remember that. And we just kept it simple. I mean, she's beautiful on her own. Beautiful. So it's like, you know.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, her Cabaret look was unbelievable. And I'm dying to know the backstory about it. You sent images that we're going to be showing here and here of the John Galliano 2011 runway. And how did that come to fruition? It was executed beautifully. I loved it.
Well, Dan really has a huge part in the aesthetic of the show. So Cabaret was something that we were looking forward to for a really long time. Yeah. We all love Cabaret, and we were wondering, like, you know, how it was going to come to fruition. And it was just such a perfect, you know, Dan's consistent nods to iconic fashion moments throughout the course of the show are just so, they're these really cool little Easter eggs for people who love fashion. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it was cool to do that because that came from him. That was him saying, this is what I want the vibe to be. And so I picked some images and was like, you know, what about a sort of like, you know, mishmash of these? And he was like, yep, that's it. And that's also Candace Ornstein was the head of department for the show. And she followed suit as well with the people that she was doing makeup on. And it was really fun because we had to do it in this way that was just slightly rough around the edges because they're people in a small town doing makeup.
I mean, I mean, how did you tie that in? Because I was like, I was curious to ask you when they come up with, Cabaret, and it wasn't embarrassing, right? And you might find these gems in a small town like that. You're like, oh my God, they're really good, you know. And I thought that you guys executed that amazingly. Like, did you have to discuss where would they get these wigs? How would they be able to do this so well? Is that a discussion at all?
Well, for Annie, we decided on a faux bob, a messy faux bob. You know, something that looked like she could do herself. Mm-hmm. So not perfectly, but you know, and just establishing that kind of era and the, you know, just the bluntness of her hair. And Moira, for hers was, we cut that wig in the middle of Uxbridge at like 10:30 at night, like where we were shooting in, you know, out of town. And I remember I said to Catherine, I'm like, we gotta like get this wig cut because, you know, and I had to like cut it in the shape of her face. And
yeah. So do you put it on her and then cut it?
Yeah, and I cut it on her, and you know, similar to Liza's, but you know, not exact. It had to be Moira, you know, Moira-esque. So, and you know, just keeping, you know, Moira liked to have her hair longer in the front and shorter in the back. So, you know, we just, what's it called? Fidgeted with it late at night. And I remember like being there for an hour and a half cutting it after everybody was gone.
Precise. Remember, you cut it like after you got the shape. She had the wig on a wig head and was just so meticulously cutting this wig and just the care that Anya put into those wigs. And her makeup was very much like a very heavy nod to Liza Minnelli as Sally Bowles. She even wore green nail polish in that scene.
Yes.
She changed her lipstick to a more orangey color like Liza wore as Sally, and the little beauty mark and the crazy long like spider eyelashes that she had on. Those were actually Catherine's that thankfully, you know, when she went home on a hiatus, she just grabbed them and was like, I thought that these might work. They're really crazy. I don't know if they're going to work, but she had them just kicking around at her house. Oh my and I was like, those are incredible. Let's do it.
Yeah. I almost feel like the look was like, I could picture her like Moira putting it together and being like, I think, I don't like that. I'm going to do it better. Like, I don't like this one thing. I'm not going to make them look so spidery. I'm going to make them a little thinner.
Make them better. Yeah, that's exactly. That's, you know, everything has its Moira twist.
Oh, and then another look that you guys sent over that I wanted to talk about. Wait, well, let me see. Was Well, obviously we haven't talked about the crow. What the heck? I'm so sorry, you guys. There's so much to talk to you about. Can we talk about the crow, please?
I love that we're talking about the looks that are sort of not talked about as much.
Good, me too. Yes, that was. I'm very, 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 very happy about that. But I would be happy talking about anything with you guys. So I want to talk about the crow look and how the hell that came together.
Well, for her wig, I had that was one of the wigs that was kind of pre-planned.
Okay.
We shot that episode first at the beginning of season 5.
Okay. Creatively, did you know this was coming? I mean, when did you know? Like, were you guys like, when are we going to talk about the crow? What? Oh my God, the crow. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I remember loading in, we hadn't even started shooting yet. And I was reading, we had gotten the script, I think a week before.
Okay.
And I was loading in the trailer and preparing this wig at the same time. I asked her what she was thinking for the crow wig. And she said, I'm thinking I want the hairline to look a little, soprano, Tony Soprano.
Okay.
With a little bit of texture and I remember her drawing like a little sketch. And I said, okay. So I took a Loretta, I had this long black curly Loretta Lynn wig.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just kept, taking out chunks like wefts and thinning it out and cutting it. And eventually everything looked kind of like feathers in the back.
Yeah.
And I had just slicked the front down to get that, what she wanted with the hairline. And it wasn't until the final touches where we decided to add a little bit of hair as at the widow's peak.
Yeah. Such a good touch.
Yeah.
And then you had the extra step of making it like in development. So you had to break down, I guess, the stages that it was, because we come into the dressing room and see both of you, right? Was that fun to be on the show?
Oh, it was lucky.
It was lucky.
Yeah.
I remember Catherine just saying, can it just be you? Because there were previous episodes, like when she does the wine commercial where they have an actor being her makeup artist.
Right.
And she was like, can it just be you? Because, then you can like move my face around and you're not going to
what you're doing
there and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I have other things to do that day.
I'm working.
And she was like, so she, spoke to Dan about it. And he said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And it was kind of funny because, Dan oversaw my whole look, which is so funny for someone who's in it for like a blink of an eye.
And he's like he's like over managing your whole thing.
It's not over. It's just what he does to make sure everything looks exactly how it should look. And, and I remember she had these like little stringy hair pieces and and so I was in this little room with the director and a couple of cameras, and Eugene was in there as well reading his lines because she was supposed to be on the phone.
Oh yeah.
And it was terrifying.
Lucky.
Actually so fun. Like it leading up to it, I was like, what am I doing? And of course Eugene would tease me and say, this is the first scene of season 5 and it's a
don't mess it up.
Don't mess it up. And it's like I got so red that Candace, who was doing my makeup, had to come in and put more makeup over my red parts. And Catherine was like, oh, he's doing it because you're doing a good job. And she's obviously so generous and fun. And it was really fun. Like it was terrifying in my mind because this was me stepping outside of the bubble.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was really fun. And
what an amazing memory to have. Yeah.
Yeah, her name is Voishka.
Voishka. Yes, Eugene insisted that I have a full backstory.
Oh.
And he was like, I was laughing and I said, I don't have any lines, Eugene. I'm just doing her makeup every line. And he was like,
that's why he's a genius. That's why.
You have to have a backstory. I want to know. And so we came up with this whole character, and she had an accent and everything that I will never do in public. That's only for because I'm probably going to offend somebody in Bosnia because I have no idea what a Bosnian accent sounds like. But it was fun. And then every once in a while, and Voishka was actually really mean.
Oh, I like that.
And so I think that Eugene kind of likes Voishka more than he likes me. But
stop it. That's not true in any way. But Eugene is probably like, you not having a backstory would be like Catherine not having foundation. It's like you cannot skip that step. And that's why it's so genius. He's such a genius.
But also when I'm doing the thing, I know that my friends, Anya, etc., are out looking at the monitors like taking the Mickey. She used the same wig in the whole time as the Crow.
It
Oh.
was in the trailer when Lucky was doing her makeup. That was her natural hair. I'm trying to. Okay, got it. That wasn't a wig at all. That's her.
Yeah. And that her, when she becomes, closer to being a crow, that was actually, we had a few meetings about that. There were a lot of discussions.
What was that like?
It was a really kind of a fine line, because it's especially when you're putting like a beak prosthetic on somebody who was Mark Watan is the person who created her beak. Like a full grown crow has a really pointy long beak, but as soon as you put that on somebody's face, it becomes comical for the wrong reasons. And we couldn't have the size of the prosthetic or the shape of the prosthetic be so distracting that it would take away from the performance. So it really was a fine line.
Honestly,
we had quite a few different kind of drafts of what that may or may not look like. And even what her makeup, because as soon as we took away the shape of Moira's lips, it didn't look like Moira anymore. So we had to keep the Crow with her lip shape, even though it was a more neutral color, we had to keep that lip shape going on because Moira would disappear. So
this is fascinating. And who makes that final decision? Who's looking at all the iterations?
Definitely there was a lot of conversations between Dan, Catherine, and Mark when it came to creating. I actually have the little mold.
Mark created the stop it. I was going to ask you where these things are.
Yeah. Moik. This is Moira and Mark together. Moik. This is that's my name. The Moik.
Now it has a name.
Kind enough to give me this, but yeah, this is actually the thing, and
it's pliable. Oh
yeah,
wow! Yeah. You guys, you're so good.
He when we actually did that mold, he had to take a mold of her whole entire face. It wasn't just the nose. So I went in to sit with her and keep her company, and I gave her a notepad and a pen because she couldn't see or speak or anything like that. And it's such a memorable day for me, because even though she was completely immobilized in this thing, she was writing down the funniest stuff and jokes and like drawing funny pictures. And I was like, how do you this is so fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm so crazy. I'm like, did you save the notes?
But I did save things, like I actually framed this one because I thought it was so cute.
Of course you did.
When she would leave her eyelashes at the end of the day, I hope you can see that.
How special is that? You guys, I don't know what this show does to me, but I have been bawling my brains out all morning, and that makes me want to cry. I'm like distracting myself by thinking of what I'm going to talk about next, because that makes me want to cry so much.
I think, both Anya and I, for our entire years on that show, there wasn't a second that went by that we weren't absolutely steeped in gratitude.
Yeah.
We got from happiness.
I mean, what are you most grateful for? Your show, you were part of something. Did you know? Could you see what it was doing for people? Like, it's saving lives. It's to be a part of something with that much purpose and executed so beautifully. And so, it's like such a gift. When did you realize what you were making?
Maybe when the drag queens started dressing as Moira.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering, when I saw that in the documentary, I thought you were a part of creating something that will be recreated for forever. Forever. How does that feel? That's amazing. What a gift.
I remember shooting, we were on location, and I'm trying to remember if maybe it was second season. And Dan, before we even started shooting, Dan gave me a tour of the set and all the different rooms, and the amount of care and detail that went into everything, I felt this thing where I was like, and now at the time it was like pride for my friend and excitement at doing this thing with my friend and with his family, and it was very dear to us. But I think maybe I'm gonna guess in season 2 or something, Dan read to me a letter that someone had written to him, and I can't even, because we stood on set and sobbed, and people thought that something had gone really wrong. So once in a while, someone would come up to us and be like, "Just checking in, is everything okay?" And we were like, "No, we're really," and it was this incredibly heartfelt letter that he had gotten from someone after they saw the "I Like the Wine and Not the Label" episode, and how it changed everything, their dynamic and the narrative with their family. And it was such a huge, and now I'm sure that he gets thousands and thousands of letters like this, but I'm sure it
never is something that you get used to, though. It's always special.
Yesterday I had I get a lot of DMs regarding women who are going through chemo, who want to wear a wig and don't know where to start. And yesterday I had somebody who watched the show, and I had actually spoken to them on the phone because they lived in Toronto. Her sister was going through chemo, losing her hair, didn't know what to do. And so I basically, guided her through where to go, basically where I prepped all of Moira's wigs. And, it's, for me, the most important thing about her wigs and helping people is that Moira kind of, I'm having like COVID brain right now.
Oh yeah.
It's not about, because it's not about what you look like, but about how you feel. And I think it brings out, people not wanting, if they're losing their hair, they don't feel like they necessarily have to have the hair that they had before they lost it. Mm-hmm. They can have fun with, new looks, and
now's your chance.
Now, just to experiment and try to have, a good time with that, going through something difficult like that. So I'm grateful for that part of it.
That's beautiful. I heard her say that the wigs expressed and repressed what she was feeling, right? And so yeah, that's an amazing gift when you're going through something so horrible that you can hide beautifully.
Yeah. And and Moira made it almost normal to be not look normal, or mainstream, or
And I also love that Moira is the age that she is doing, because it's one thing when you're very young to do stuff like that, but it's been this really kind of cool movement has happened in a way where people who are 40 and over and are saying, you know what, I never thought of wearing a red lipstick.
Yeah.
I never thought of, I just thought that I wasn't supposed to do that by the standards of society and what have you. And Moira just, really kind of took expressing yourself visually and taking what you feel on the outside and wearing it on the outside in whatever way makes you feel good. She took that to another level for so many groups of people, and people that are normally ignored, an age group that's normally ignored.
I mean, there's that whole thing that Norma Kamali talks about becoming invisible. And, Moira is so inspiring that you don't have to put up with that. You do not have to accept that. All of a sudden, one day you're invisible. And then, and it was funny too, to see with Alexis and Moira, like that there wasn't a competition necessarily between the two. That was really refreshing, because I was always expecting some kind of vibe to appear where they were in competition with each other, kind of. And I didn't ever get that vibe, I feel like in TV, a lot of times the mother and daughter are, they address that somehow. I wanted to talk about the 80s look, of course. That was, so we saw the 80s look twice. We saw the 80s look in season 6, and then we saw it also in the HR instructional. No, two different things. Okay.
No, season 6 was the 90s.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
90s flashback for her character Vivian Blake.
Yeah.
And that was a flashback to the 90s. But the Rose video, workplace etiquette video.
Not Crystal Carrington.
Right. No, two separate ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you went to the 90s, where did you go in the 90s for reference?
Well, I looked at, sorry, Anya, go ahead.
Her wig had already been established.
Okay.
So I basically, just freshened it up and added a little bit of blonde highlights to it. Where blonde happened to have, be in the 90s.
Oh my God. Do you remember the stripes? I had the stripes. Yeah.
Chunky blonde highlight.
Yeah.
I want some chunky blonde highlight. What were we doing?
It was more like ginger spice, where it was like red with the blonde contrast. We didn't want to make it look so distracting, but I did add some more blonde in contrast to the red.
You're a genius, because it was not distracting, and yet you can totally lock in on what that is, and you remember it, but it was also glamorous, like the soaps. The soaps always did it better. I wish we still had soaps. Oh my God. I would give anything.
Yeah. And her makeup was very, I looked at pictures of like Donna Mills and, the big soap stars in that particular era.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of, it also reminded me of how everyone looked working at MAC in the 90s, where
I'm telling you,
the skin was very matte. The brow had a very specific kind of shape. The colors, she had this kind of a brownie tone to her lipstick, and then I had to actually mix things to make this nail polish. But remember Vamp nail polish, Chanel?
What do you mean? I still obsess over it. I collect them.
Oh, well, I didn't have it like on set with me. And so I mixed some colors and made something that looked like Vamp, because that was
the best.
The thing in the night.
Yeah.
I still go and get Linkin Park in the Dark because it's the closest thing, right? At
I love that color.
Oh, we know. We're all over that color. We know.
Yeah.
My girlfriend even begged me not to wear it in her wedding, and I was like, I can't do that. I'm so sorry. I cannot do it. No.
Hilarious.
The Crystal Carrington wig is fantastic, obviously. Where are all the wigs now? Do you have them?
I have them all. Yeah.
You guys, is there going to be a museum? Is there what is there going to be honest? There's going to be one, right? Where's the hotel exists? Yeah. Is it going to be like Twin Peaks where you can go there and you'll have a wig wall?
I think they're selling the hotel.
Yeah. The hotel is now for sale. So if anyone wants to,
how do we buy it?
Well, let me tell you, the rooms inside that motel don't look like what the set looks like.
Oh.
No. I have memories of standing inside of a bathtub, and we had the bathtub curtains on because there was a scene where Moira was looking for a towel and her arm was and then she had to stick her head out and her face had to be all wet. So I had to blast her in the face with water every once in a while. But it smelled so bad in there and we had to be quiet. We're in the bathtub and we're just looking at each other like smelled. But go ahead and buy it, y'all. Go get that motel.
Oh my God, you guys, this is tragedy. I'm so upset. I want to stop this because I want it to be a museum like Twin Peaks or something. I want the wig wall to be something that people get a ticket to go see.
Anya, you can like sell tickets to your house.
Yes. Well, that's the other option.
Yeah.
Are you guys based in Toronto? You live in Toronto?
Yes.
I see. Okay. So, and then, but the show was shot in Canada and LA?
No, just in Toronto.
Okay.
Our studio was in Toronto, and then we would shoot the motel in Orangeville. Okay. And then we would shoot the town in Goodwood in Uxbridge.
Okay.
But each of these places is maybe an hour-ish outside of Toronto proper.
But you didn't have to stay in the hotel.
Oh.
No.
I was afraid that you were going to say that you had to stay there while you were filming. You each had rooms.
Oh, that would be hilarious. But...
like a band, like band camp.
Yeah, it's or hockey. I think that they would put a lot of hockey, teenage hockey. Basketball.
Oh my God. Sports. It's a functioning hotel. I see. Okay. Every
once in a while, though, we would shoot the like the posters, the promo.
Yeah.
In LA.
Okay. I think I saw somewhere like everybody in LA being interviewed or something. But and does everybody live in Toronto too? The cast? No, they're all over the place.
No, they're all over the place.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you guys. There's a million more things we could talk about. We've been talking for an hour about all these things, and it sounds like we've been talking for 5 minutes. I cannot thank you enough for spending your time with me today and sharing.
I'm so happy to be able to relive that amazing time.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do this every week if it helps you.
I would love to talk about it. I mean, I talk about it with Lucky every time I see her.
Of course.
Oh yeah, we continue to work with each other a lot on a bunch of different projects, and there's so many kind of touchstone moments for us, whether it was like a problem that we were trying to solve or a really happy moment or whatever, but it's really cool to have not only did we have a friendship for a really long time, and we continue to have a friendship, but also just this experience was just another level of anchoring an experience that was just beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah.
And to think that you're not a bystander, you're not a small part of this. Like, you're a huge, huge part. You made a huge contribution to makeup and hair history and fashion history. And it's just I love seeing that. And I'm so happy that you are the people that you are, and you're so grateful and you understand what you did. And it's just so inspiring to people. To me, it's really inspiring I seek to have purpose in you only get it a very few amount of times in your career.
That is some real ish that you just said right there.
Right.
That particular sense of purpose with the show and creating those characters and stuff, and being able to work with those people. It's so nice that this whole awards season has happened for everybody, because it gives us a chance to celebrate it, even though we're in a pandemic. And
I know
it's been a bright spot for us, and it's hard to for a lot of people to have that feeling of a sense of purpose in the pandemic. It's been a real gift for us to be able to revisit such a bright spot in our lives.
Yes. And then one day you'll be able to be together in the same room celebrating it.
It's and also having a lot of gratitude for the cast, and Dan trusting us with their process. Being in the trailer in the morning and watching, Eugene and Catherine, do their lines and what their process was. And, I just miss reading the scripts, and I miss, going, what are we going to create like this episode? It was just a surprise each episode. And, the
writing was so brilliant as well that there would be times where I would be looking at the script, we would be looking at scripts, and this little like flicker of an idea would come just based on the quality of the words that someone had written.
Right.
And so then we could be like, what, it said this in the script, what do you think about this? And it could be the nucleus of an idea for something. And it's so cool to work with people who are receptive and open and collaborative, and I can only dream of ever finding another situation like that, because it was a really incredible and satisfying and exciting way to work.
Of course. As artists, coming down from that, I don't think people talk about how crushing it is. It's really, you sound like such a baby to like be like, oh, I just want to do that again to your friends and stuff. But like only other people who've been through something like that can understand the withdrawal of it. And it's just,
you're basically, I established relationships with Moira's wigs.
Yeah.
I remember being in the trailer and having to take all the wigs down and off the mannequins and putting them away. And I was sad.
Yeah.
Like, good
night.
Yeah.
I enjoyed going to work every day and seeing what we had created, because I would keep all the wigs displayed on heads, just for inspiration and stuff. And I miss all of that.
Yeah. I think it's okay to be blue for a while. Yeah. Just think if the viewers are freaking out, I just can't imagine what you guys go through. So, but more to come.
That's the thing that makes me happy, is even when I start feeling blue, these characters they're going to live on for so long, and there's constantly going to be huge amounts of people who are going to be seeing it for the first time.
Yes.
Or people who've watched it for the 17th time because it gives them comfort. Those characters stay alive. So, you know, even though like, you know, the creative process is a feeling, there is a sort of feeling of mourning about not doing the creative process, but we get to see the work. Like the fans are just another level. They're so amazing and kind people and creative, like the art that's come out of this show.
Yes.
And you know, there's many of the fans that we've met, that Anya and I have met, because they just DM us on Instagram and are super supportive, and they've now become friends even though we haven't met in real life.
Yeah.
I consider many of them friends, so it's really who knew. You know,
so beautiful. Very beautiful. Well, thank you for your contribution to history, for sure. It was amazing to talk to you guys, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Me too. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Not an eclipse, Nathaniel. Those are birds! Look out! What have we done?
Look Behind the Look is a Vinyl Foot production, written by me, your host, Tiffany Bartok, produced by Jace Bartok, edited by Nicole Tucker. If you're interested in learning more, find our video version on the YouTube channel Look Behind the Look podcast. There you can see rare photos and clips from our guests. And please follow us on Twitter at LookBehindPod and Instagram at LookBehindTheLook. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe. And tell your friends and spread the word. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or any podcatcher of your choice. Thanks for listening to Look Behind the Look.